Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you today? May you always be healthy and full of blessings. Before starting, let's start by reciting a prayer. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. May this prayer be a way for us to get intercession from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Day of Judgment. Ameen. Hello Muslim friends, meet again with the Robe Story channel. Before we continue, it would be nice if we support this channel by clicking the subscribe, like, comment, and share buttons. Come on, let's listen to the story. Daniel Miller sat in the Los Angeles Chronicle newsroom, staring blankly at his computer screen. The editor-in-chief had just given him a daunting assignment: investigate why Islam is the fastest-growing religion in the United States. For Daniel, Islam was a controversial topic, and he wasn't sure he could write something objective without being burdened by the stereotypes he often heard in the media. Islam? Seriously? This is going to get a lot of criticism, he muttered, half protesting, raising an eyebrow at his editor. That's exactly it. We need a deep, unbiased look. Give us a fresh perspective, his editor replied firmly. Start with the Muslim community in Detroit. There's an interesting phenomenon going on there. The journey to Detroit. With deep skepticism, Daniel set off for Detroit, one of America's most populous Muslim cities. On the way, he read reports about the growth of Islam. Most statistics showed that the majority of converts were women and people from non-Muslim backgrounds. This fact puzzled him. Why did they choose Islam amid the negative media portrayals? Upon arriving in Detroit, Daniel visited a small mosque in a bustling neighborhood. There he met Matthew Carter, a young imam who had once been a Christian pastor. Meeting Matthew Carter. Matthew greeted Daniel with a warm smile, wearing a simple white robe and a PC. They sat in the living room of the mosque, surrounded by theology books and Quranic commentary. So, you're a journalist? Matthew asked as he poured tea. Yes, Daniel replied simply. I'm here to understand why Islam is growing so rapidly, especially in America. And to be honest, I don't understand why someone like you, a former pastor, would choose to become a Muslim. Matthew smiled broadly. That's a question I get asked a lot. To be honest, I never imagined that I would convert to Islam either. But my life's journey took me in a different direction. From pastor to imam, Matthew began to tell his story. He was born and raised in Texas in a devout Christian family. His father was a pastor, and he became a pastor himself at a young age. But even though he loved his religion, he always felt like there was an emptiness he couldn't fill. When I read the Bible, I often found verses that contradicted each other, he said. It made me wonder, is there a greater truth? His search led Matthew to study other religions. When he first read the Quran, he said he was shocked. Not only did the Quran answer my questions, but it also gave me clear direction. The concept of the oneness of God made me feel like this was the truth I had been searching for. After studying Islam for a year, Matthew decided to pronounce the Shahada. His decision drew criticism from his friends and family, but he stood his ground. I knew this was the right path, and even though it was hard, I felt more at peace than I had ever felt before. Daniel was speechless when he heard Matthew's story. To a skeptic like him, it seemed incredible, almost implausible. But Matthew seemed so sincere, and the peace he radiated was hard to ignore. As Daniel left the mosque, he began to wonder, how could a pastor who had studied religion his whole life end up choosing Islam? Maybe there was something deeper than he had imagined. Truth seekers, Daniel returned to his hotel in Detroit with questions in his head. Matthew Carter's story had struck a chord. He began to feel that writing this article was much bigger than just a regular report. He wanted to dig deeper. That night, he decided to find another convert who could offer a different perspective. In his search, he discovered a community of converts in Dearborn, Michigan, known as one of the centers of Muslim life in America. Meeting Sophia Walker. The next day, Daniel met Sophia Walker, a 28-year-old woman who had converted to Islam a year ago. They met at a small cafe in Dearborn, frequented by the local Muslim community. Sophia was a graphic designer who had grown up in an agnostic family. She spoke enthusiastically about her journey, though there was a hint of sadness on her face. "I used to not care about religion," she said, swirling her coffee cup. "For me, life was all about finding happiness, having fun, and chasing dreams. But the more I tried to pursue those things, the more empty I felt. I had a great job, great friends, but when I was alone, I felt like something was missing." Sophia began looking for ways to fill the void. She read books on spirituality and tried various meditation practices, but nothing really satisfied her. Then one day she came across a book about the Prophet Muhammad. "I was blown away by his life," Sophia said. "I never thought a religious leader could be so humble and simple. I started looking into Islam more, and everything I found made sense. The way Islam organizes life, from worship to social etiquette, gave me a sense of finding the answers to the chaos I had been feeling." Sophia eventually decided to visit a mosque in Dearborn. There she found a Muslim community that welcomed her warmly. After a few months of studying, she took her Shahada. Although the decision alienated some of her friends and family, she felt like she had finally found true peace. "Islam changed my life," she says. "I not only felt closer to God, but I felt closer to myself." Stories from the convert community. After speaking with Sophia, Daniel was invited to attend a convert community meeting at the local mosque. John Mitchell, a former soldier, found Islam while serving in the Middle East. He said the Quran taught peace and compassion, something he had previously misunderstood. Emily Rose, a single mother, found Islam after going through hard times. Islam gave her hope and structure to rebuild her life. One story that touched Daniel the most came from Carlos Rivera, a former gang member from Chicago. Carlos told how he found Islam in prison. "I lost everything. My family, my freedom, my self-respect. But behind bars, I found the Quran. The verses changed my heart. When I got out, I was determined to start a new life as a Muslim." Daniel starts to ask questions that night. Daniel thought about all the stories he had heard. They all came from different backgrounds, but they had one thing in common: a sense of searching and peace. Islam seemed to offer both. He remembered Sophia's words. "Islam doesn't force anything. I chose it because I wanted to, not because I had to." Daniel began to ask himself, is what they found true? Does Islam really provide the answers to all the questions that humans seek? Light in the darkness. The next day, Daniel Miller flew to Chicago to meet Aisha Khan, a young Muslim activist known for her digital dawah and her fight against discrimination against Muslims in America. Aisha, an energetic 25-year-old with a keen eye and a high spirit, was leading a small discussion with a group of Muslim teenagers at a community center she runs with her small team. The topic: how to deal with the stereotypes and hatred they often face. After the discussion, Aisha approached Daniel with a friendly smile. "You must be Daniel Miller," she said, extending her hand. "I heard you write about the rise of Islam in America. It's an important topic." Daniel smiled awkwardly. "Yes, but honestly, I didn't expect to find so many amazing stories. It seems like there's a side of Islam that's not reported much." "Yes," Aisha replied. "Unfortunately, Islam is often misunderstood. But underneath all that, there are stories of courage, faith, and awakening." Flipping the narrative, Aisha began by talking about her work. She is active on social media, creating short videos explaining Islamic teachings, clearing up misconceptions, and showcasing the beauty of Muslim culture. With over 1 million followers across multiple platforms, she is changing the conversation. She has become one of America's most influential Muslim figures. There are a lot of people out there who are curious about Islam, but are afraid to ask. Social media gives me the opportunity to reach out to them without any pressure, she says. Daniel watched one of her videos titled Islam, a religion of peace, not violence. In it, Aisha gently explains how Islam respects all human beings, regardless of their religion or background. It was an offer to contribute, she says, and surprisingly, a lot of the comments came from non-Muslims who said that their views had changed after watching it. The challenges of being a Muslim in America. However, Aisha doesn't sugarcoat the challenges that Muslims face in America. She shares how discrimination and Islamophobia are still a daily reality. I was bullied in college just because I wore a hijab, she says emphatically. But it didn't stop me. It made me feel stronger. Islam teaches us to be patient and to fight evil with good. She also spoke about the Muslim community becoming more united in the face of these challenges. We are not just surviving, we are rising. We are building schools, mosques, and community centers. We are involved in social work, helping the homeless, and being part of American society. We want to show that Muslims are an asset, not a threat. Daniel begins to see the other side. After hearing Aisha's story, Daniel felt even more inspired. He began to understand that the rise of Islam in America is not just about numbers, but about a tremendous spiritual and social struggle. Before I met you, I thought Islam was growing just because of immigration or practical reasons, Daniel said. But now I see there is something bigger. People are choosing Islam because they find peace in it. Aisha smiled. That is the power of Islam. Islam does not force anyone. Islam captivates the heart. Attending a dawah event. To conclude the visit, Aisha invited Daniel to attend a dawah event held by the local Muslim community. The event was attended by hundreds of people, including non-Muslims who wanted to learn more about Islam. In the middle of the event, a young non-Muslim raised his hand and asked, "Why are you so sure that Islam is the religion of truth?" A cleric leading the event calmly replied, "Islam is about a direct relationship with God, without intermediaries. We believe that life has a clear purpose, and Islam provides a guide to achieving it. However, we do not force anyone to believe. We simply share what we believe." Daniel found the event peaceful and full of dialogue. There was no coin, just a conversation filled with warmth and mutual respect. That night, Daniel wrote in his journal, "I came in skeptical, but I began to see Islam is more than a religion. It is a way of life, a guide to finding meaning in the chaos of the world. There may be more truth in these teachings than I ever imagined." Daniel felt himself slowly changing. He began to feel that this assignment was not just a job, but also a personal journey, one that revealed things he had previously ignored, inspiring waves of reflection. Daniel Miller sits at his desk in his small Los Angeles apartment. Near him is a laptop, its screen glowing with a blank document, ready to be filled. But his hands feel heavy. He knows that the article he is about to write is no ordinary article. It is the result of a journey that has not only changed his view of Islam, but has changed him in profound ways. Piecing together the stories he has discovered, Daniel begins his article by describing his initial skepticism. He writes about how he came to America with prejudice and limited understanding, only to discover something very different. "I met Matthew Carter, a former pastor who found peace in Islam. I heard the story of Sophia Walker, who felt lost before finding Islam as her guide. I spoke with Aisha KH, who fought discrimination with incredible courage and heroism. All of these stories have one thing in common: Islam gave them peace, direction, and hope." Daniel pauses, thinking about Aisha's words. Islam captivates, not forces. He adds to his writing how Islam grew in America, not because of coercion or propaganda, but because of its universal spiritual appeal. Personal reflection. As Daniel writes, he begins to think about the transformation he has experienced during this journey. He realizes that this assignment has brought him closer to questions he had long avoided. What is the purpose of life? What is truly important? Daniel remembers attending a dawah event with Aisha. He saw how Islam offered not just rules, but also a way of life filled with peace and balance. He recalls the words of the cleric at the event, "Islam does not force anyone to believe. The truth speaks for itself." Those words keep ringing in his mind. Daniel feels that he is not only reporting the facts, but also feeling a calling to seek the same truth that Matthew, Sophia, and Isha did, writing an inspiring article. Daniel spent the night writing his article. He highlighted 3 key factors behind the rapid growth of Islam in America. Conversion. Many Americans are discovering Islam after feeling empty in a culture of materialism and individualism. Strong Muslim communities. Mosques, Community centers and Islamic charities are creating a supportive environment for even those without a Muslim background. Digital dawah. Young Muslims are using social media to show the true, peaceful, and inclusive side of Islam. I began this journey with skepticism, but I ended it with awe. Islam is not just a religion, it is a way of life that offers peace in the midst of chaos. Perhaps in my search for Islam, I had actually found something greater, an understanding of myself. Daniel's transformation. After completing his article, Daniel decided to visit a local mosque in Los Angeles. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he felt the need to take it a step further. At the mosque, he met an elderly imam who greeted him warmly. Daniel spoke at length about his journey, about all he had learned and how he had begun to feel drawn to Islam. The imam listened patiently and said, "God gives us signs along the way. Maybe this journey is a sign that your heart is opening." After speaking, Daniel asked for time to be alone in the mosque. Watching the people praying and reflecting in silence, he felt a sense of calm that he had never felt before. A groundbreaking article. Daniel's article was eventually published under the title, "A Wave of Light: Why Islam is America's Fastest-Growing Religion." The article quickly went viral. Many readers appreciated Daniel's courage to write honestly and portray Islam in a positive light. Many converts even felt that the article reflected their journey. On the other hand, Daniel also received criticism and negative comments, but he did not care. He knew that his writing was based on real facts and experiences. A new beginning. The story ends with Daniel starting to read the translation of the Quran in his spare time. He is in no rush to make a decision, but he knows that this journey is not over. He feels that he is on the verge of something big. At the end of the story, Daniel writes a note in his personal journal. Maybe in the end, the truth is not about what we find, but about what we allow into our hearts. And for the first time in my life, I feel ready to accept that truth. This is the end of our video. If you enjoy Islamic content like this, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.